Over the past day, September 28, 136 combat engagements were recorded on the front. In the Pokrovsk direction, Ukrainian defenders managed to halt 53 assault actions by the Russian army. According to operational data from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine as of 8 o'clock on September 29, enemy losses amounted to 1,080 personnel. In the enemy's arsenal on the day of the attack, 1 missile strike and 81 airstrikes were recorded, 50 missiles and 156 guided air bombs were used. Additionally, the enemy conducted 4,682 shellings, of which 124 were from multiple launch rocket systems, and deployed 6,432 kamikaze drones. Airstrikes were carried out on the Zaliznychne and Novoselivka areas of Zaporizhzhia Oblast, as well as on Olhivka in Kherson Oblast. Defensive forces in a day struck 2 districts of concentration of enemy personnel, weapons and military equipment, 1 UAV command post and 5 other important targets of the occupiers. Enemy losses for the day totaled 1,080 personnel. Among the destroyed equipment were 7 tanks, 53 artillery systems, 1 MLRS, 1 air defense asset, 617 unmanned aerial vehicles, 43 cruise missiles, 111 units of motor vehicles and 2 units of enemy special equipment. General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine said that Russian forces have attempted to improve their positions near Yampil and Sumy Oblast, but Ukrainian defenders have promptly reinforced the area and prevented any advance. The Russians chose the improvement of their tactical position near the settlement of Yampil as one of their objectives. In response, the Ukrainian defense forces concentrated the necessary personnel and equipment to prevent these plans from being realized, General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine said. The General Staff noted that, in an effort to conceal their failure, Russian propagandists began spreading fake reports claiming the capture of Yampil. According to the General Staff, the settlement of Yampil remains fully under Ukrainian control, and all Russian sabotage groups were detected in time and neutralized.
Foreign mercenaries fighting for Ukraine are present on most fronts of the special military operation, including Kupiansk, Kharkiv, Sumy and Donbass. Russian military expert Boris Rozin told. Mercenaries are actively present in the Kupiansk, Kharkiv and Sumy areas, and in principle in Donbass, he said. Here, they are inflicting heavy blows on the Russians. Even the Russian army often complains about this now. Normaysk. At the same time, according to the expert, the total number of foreign fighters is relatively small compared to the Ukrainian armed forces, although their numbers may vary in different areas. In more than 2.5 years of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, there have been foreign citizens who voluntarily joined Ukrainians in their fight against the unprovoked military aggression. Though the exact numbers have not been made public, people from various countries and regions of the world have become a part of the specially formed International Legion or other units of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and the National Guard of Ukraine. Ukraine respects international laws and conventions, and having foreign volunteers in the military does not make an exception here, no matter how hard the Russian propaganda tries to show otherwise. Ukraine ratified the International Convention against the recruitment, use, financing and training of mercenaries in 1993 and stays true to that commitment. The convention extends on the Geneva Convention's Protocol 1, which, in Article 47, states that a mercenary cannot be a lawful combatant or prisoner of war. The convention lists several points to define a mercenary. In particular, mercenaries are not members of the armed forces of the country at war. However, foreign citizens defending Ukraine against Russian invasion are. They serve in Ukraine's defense forces alongside Ukrainian servicemen and have the same rights, obligations, legal status, and pay. That contradicts another part of the definition of a mercenary, a person who is motivated by the desire for private gain and promised or paid significantly more than combatants of similar rank and functions in the armed forces. This is not true in this case. As a part of Ukraine's defense forces, foreign citizens have the same salary and other financial benefits as Ukrainian citizens. Foreign citizens officially enlisted in the AFU units are combatants, not mercenaries. This status is important. Combatants cannot be prosecuted just for their participation in hostilities by the opposing party. Moreover, they have the right to the status of a prisoner of war and, therefore, protection under the Geneva Convention for the Protection of Prisoners of War of 1949. The law on military duty and military service defines the basic approaches and principles of military service by foreign citizens in Ukraine. Military service is performed by foreign citizens and stateless persons on a voluntary basis and under a contract. Foreign citizens may be appointed to the privates or non-commissioned officers' positions in the armed forces of Ukraine, the State Transport Special Service, and the National Guard of Ukraine. The basic requirements to enlist include age 18 to 60, no previous convictions, legal grounds to stay in Ukraine, health condition fit for military service, sufficient level of physical fitness, passing the professional and psychological selection. One of Russian soldiers described the lawlessness of the frontline command in the war against Ukraine. They're simply sending people to their deaths. They're simply commanding from their bunkers, sending guys out to be cannon fodder. They're just trying to get stars for themselves, to become some kind of hero. They say there are pigs and bitches over there, but who do we have? Our top brass apparently has no idea what's going on here. Did the Russian president really order you to behave like this? A soldier says that the Russian command is killing its own and promises to tell about it if he survives. They just push you forward. If you don't move, they'll shoot you down with one of their own. It was reported that the occupier survived and allegedly transmitted information about what was happening at the front. After that, he disappeared, according to his sister, taken to an unknown location. The occupier never made contact again. Recall, other Russian soldiers report growing dissatisfaction with their commanders due to widespread corruption, extrajudicial killings, neglect of wounded, constant supply issues, and the command's reliance on a rigid, centralized Soviet-style structure that results in high casualties and chaotic battlefield conditions. In this case, Russian military is facing serious supply problems, lack of medical care, and salary delays, leading to mass desertions and suicides. Hidden mobilization is going on in Russia, affecting men of all ages and physical abilities. Due to the critical situation with personnel, the command of the Russian Federation involves not only contract soldiers and conscripts, but also prisoners. Diseases such as dysentery are spreading through the consumption of water from rivers. Some soldiers try to get food by visiting the trenches of the Ukrainian military or disguise themselves as women to get to stores. Vendors say that such women buy stew, canned food, water, and bread. As for clothing, they are issued summer uniforms in winter and winter uniforms in summer. In addition, the command requires saving ammunition. The situation with medical support at the front line in Russia is as critical as the supply situation. The soldiers have to help themselves, and bullet and shrapnel wounds are often treated with brilliant green and then sent to new attacks. Seriously wounded soldiers are left in the trenches due to the impossibility of evacuation and indifference of the command. Many dead soldiers remain in the fields and around the trenches. Some soldiers are forbidden to leave their positions, even for medical treatment. One of the main reasons for the Russian military to participate in the war is financial reward, but salaries are often delayed or not paid at all, which leads to desertion. There are cases when commanders take away the bank cards of their subordinates after they are wounded. Soldiers also say that they are sent to war by their own wives for selfish reasons.